Your bank account reflects how much God thinks you can handle based on how you've handled what he's already given you. Keep praying for it. I can't release that to you.
Did he just blame God for the ever-increasing gap between the rich and those who have nothing?
God has enough resources to get everybody everything they need. They make streets out of gold in heaven. The resources are available, but the best ability in this moment is how can you manage? Because I'm not giving you what I got. I'm giving you what you can handle.
Is God deliberately withholding blessings from the ones that need those the most? Now, before I talk about what he actually said, I need to talk about his approach. An approach that I think is responsible for most of their very problematic interpretations of Scripture. I want to call this approach the secrets and keys to the kingdom approach.
I feel like I have a mandate from God to deliver a message that changed the trajectory of my life 8 years ago. And one thing that I told God is if he ever gives me a secret or a key to the kingdom, that I would share it with as many people as I could.
Now, what does he really mean with the phrases secrets of the kingdom or keys to the kingdom? It is the belief that there are secret pathways, secret spiritual formulas, secret accelerators, spiritual rules, that if you only tap into them, the healing, the supernatural power, the knowledge, the wealth that you have been longing for so many years will finally be released, will finally be given to you. Now, to say that I've lived by this approach is not an exaggeration. I know the feeling of constantly being stuck in cycles of poverty, frustration, like feeling like you're cursed or something. There's no way out. No matter what you do, no matter how you pray. I know what it is to feel that there's something missing. There's got to be something I haven't understood. And that the Bible, out of all the books, should be able to tell me what that is. I was part of the leadership of churches like that for at least 10 years of my life. I know what it is to live like that. And I also know the consequences of that lifestyle. And here is where the special leader comes in. It's this special leader who can tap into this secret revelations from God and make you feel part of a special group, a group that is in the know. Needless to say, this approach creates fierce followers, defenders of the leader who has this special ability to tap into the secrets of God. But I digress a little bit. It is this very misguided approach that transforms the Bible into a secret book of mystical spells, of mystical spiritual formulas, spiritual laws, spiritual principles that will guide you to real success here on earth. I think you've seen this before. It is this approach that leads pastors to connect different dots, different verses from all over the Bible, regardless of context, regardless of genre, regardless of authorship, original language, intent. Now, this is one of the main causes for what Michael Todd will do next. Misinterpretation of a text that will lead him into an awful and distorted depiction of God, a God who deliberately withholds the blessings from the ones who need them the most.
Are you still loved? Yes. Are you still accepted? Yes. Are you still his child? Yes. But this thing that I have for you, I can't give you because you're disobedient.
Now, he bases most of his teachings from this sermon on Matthew 25, on the parable of, you guessed it, the parable of the talents. Now, I need you to stay with me for this, because this is a very important piece if you want to understand where Michael Todd went wrong and how he puts himself in a position where he can do nothing but compromise the message of the Bible and speak things that are categorically untrue of God. Now, this parable and the sequence of verses starts not in chapter 25, but in chapter 24 of Matthew, under the subtitle, The Destruction of the Temple and the Signs of the End Times. Now, both chapters cannot be read separately because they are both parts of the same discourse, the same conversation that Jesus is having with his disciples with no break in between. This is one of those occasions where splitting one conversation in two different chapters is sort of misleading and confusing. So chapter 24 starts like this. Jesus left the temple and was walking away when his disciples came up to him to call his attention to its buildings. Do you see all these things? He asked. Truly I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Everyone will be thrown down. The next verse continues and says, as Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. Tell us, they said, when will this happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? And then Jesus goes ahead and mentions many of the verses we know about the destruction of the temple and the future things to come. Verses like, nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Or, so when you see standing in the holy place, the abomination that causes desolation is spoken of through the prophet Daniel. Or, but about the day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father, etc., etc. This This is the context of chapter 25, where the conversation never stops. It continues into chapter 25. That's why this chapter starts with the phrase, "At that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like," or "then the kingdom shall be likened to." At that time, or then. It is in that scatological context that this parable fits. Jesus is not giving them a lesson on kingdom finances, that if they manage their money well, God is going to release that job that they always wanted in this life. That if they manage well, their company will make millions, that they will get a better house, that they will retire quicker, or worse, that if they tithe religiously, Jesus is going to multiply their income. Jesus is not giving them financial advice for this world in this parable. The three parables in chapter 25, the parable of the 10 virgins, the parable of the talents, and the parable of the sheep and the goats, they all happen in this same context. Those parables are not about your normal day-to-day life and what to do about it. And remember, you're very, very likely dead in this scenario. Nobody really knows how this giving and taking of talents will work in the afterlife. That is definitely a topic for a different video. But this brings me to my main point of contention with Michael Todd's sermon. What is Michael Todd saying about God here? God has all of the resources imaginable, but he is deliberately withholding them from you. What are the implications of that? Are the poor getting poorer because God deems them incapable of handling wealth?
Because I'm not giving you what I got. I'm giving you what you can handle. Your bank account reflects how much God thinks you can handle based on how you've handled what he's already given you. Keep praying for it. I can't release that to you.
Was Jeffrey Epstein getting richer and richer because God thought he was a good steward, so he took from the poor and gave it to him? Is God orchestrating part, if not all, of the world's economy? Is God a capitalist? Is he a socialist? Is God the reason why the gap between the rich and the poor is getting bigger and bigger instead of smaller?
I see God over the balcony of heaven like, you dumb. Every 1st and 15. They play me every time. And they don't know I got all of this stored up.
Why are you giving the systems of oppression, discrimination, and corruption that keep the poor poorer and the rich richer a free pass? Or putting the responsibility on the Christian in need, or what is worse, putting the responsibility on God? Are you telling me that I can bypass all of those evil systems by dropping some money in the tithe or offering basket?
I was tagged in a video recently of a Mormon church leader talking about tithing in a way that kind of lines up with this theology.
One of the first things a bishop must do to help the needy is ask them to pay their tithing. If a destitute family is faced with the decision of paying their tithing or eating, they should pay their tithing. The sentiment of they can't afford to needs to be replaced with they can't afford not to.
But again, if people have to choose between tithing and taking care of basic life necessities, especially now as the cost of living is higher than it's been in decades, what does this imply about the justice of God, about the love of God? And if this is who we're being taught that God is, if this is what we're being taught that divine justice looks like, it begs to me Professor Washington Leapart's question, do Black lives matter to God? Or to those who believe in this interpretation of God, do they matter to you?
Since when has my tithe become a magical wand that can change my life forever? Since when has money become my salvation? Now, the misinterpretation of this passage is not my main issue. The Indiana Jones approach to the Bible is reading the Bible as a book of secrets that will help you reach your personal goals. Is thinking that there are special people that can spot a new biblical secret, a biblical rule that would help change my life. Is thinking that the reason why I'm struggling financially, physically, spiritually is because I haven't found that secret rule hidden in the Bible somewhere is the problem. Michael Todd has good points, good recommendations as to how to handle your money and be generous. You didn't need to wrap it in a spiritual formula wrapping paper. There is no need for that. You can give sound financial advice and just leave it at that as financial advice. By trying to fix a problem, you just created a plethora of new ones. There are many ways in which our understanding of how God operates in the church and the world around us need to change. I have found a new understanding of God and theology that has literally saved my relationship and walk with God. I share many of those lessons and transformations on this video over here. So click over here and I'll see you there.
You don't rob God of money. You rob God of the opportunity to bless you. Are you still his child? Yes. But this thing that I have for you, I can't give you because you're disobedient.